Hello. If you're watching this video, you've probably seen your Zappi charging at a slower rate, given that it's a sunny day and your solar panels are generating lots and lots of lovely energy. This is certainly the rabbit hole that I went down when trying to explain what I was seeing, and I thought it was worth sharing what I discovered. Now, YouTube isn't my natural habitat, so I apologise in advance for shaky videos and probably lots of umming and ahhing. I have a home energy system consisting of 13 panels, 3 facing south and 10 facing west, a Give Energy battery system, and I've got a MyEnergy Eddy and a Zappi 2.1. With the majority of the panels on our property facing the west, generation takes place in the afternoon, and our peak generation any time is about 3.9 kilowatts. So about a week ago, the British summertime arrived, and here in East Sussex, and temperatures started to rise and clear blue skies started to appear from about 6 AM onwards. The solar charged the home batteries to 100% and then started charging the car via the Zappi. The solar was generating 3.8 kilowatts, and the house was using about 600 watts, so there should have been about 3.2 kilowatts surplus to charge the car. Now the Zappi was in Eco Plus mode and was set to 100% green, so it started to charge the car, and after about 30 minutes I decided I'd check the MyEnergy app, and saw that the car was only charging at about 1.8 kilowatts and 1.4 was being exported, and I thought that's a bit odd. So I went and checked the Zappi, went through all the settings, checked the readings menu, and I noticed that the unit temperature of the Zappi itself was reading 69 degrees, and the Zappi was hot to touch. Now, our Zappi is mounted on the south facing side of our garage and has no shade whatsoever. Also, our garage is timber clad and it's stained in a dark brown colour, and I fully appreciate that's not a great combination and will absorb a lot of heat. So I decided to run an experiment, and so I did this on a different day. So I used an infrared thermometer and I measured the Zappi and I measured the wall temperature where the Zappi is mounted. Now the wall temperature was 57 degrees and the Zappi casing was 69 degrees at the top of the unit. I then checked the Zappi unit temperature by going to the readings menu, which is on like the first page of the menu on the front panel of the Zappi, and it was reading 63 degrees. And I started an eco charge, which will take any surplus energy from the solar that the house isn't using, but nothing from the grid. And so if you look on the video to my right, you will take a note of the Zappi icon in the middle of the screen, where it's below, which is below the waiting for surplus message, and you'll notice how there isn't 3 little lines just above it, and I'll come back to that later in the video. So we set the charge going, we wait for the Zappi to sort itself out, and then let's take another look at the internal temperature. So you can see after nearly 12 minutes that the temperature has risen to 67 degrees. The charge to the car has reduced to 2.8 kilowatts, with the house battery absorbing any solar excess that the Zappi isn't using. On this day my battery wasn't fully charged, and so basically the Zappi had the priority and the house battery would take anything it wasn't using. Now if you notice that there are 3 little lines, tiny lines, just above the Zappi icon on the centre, and just below it's above the icon and below the word charging. Now this is the Zappi indicating that the temperature is too warm and the charge to the car is being reduced. So as part of my experiment I decided to put the Zappi into a fast mode to simulate either having a larger solar array where you might be supplying a greater amount of energy to the Zappi, and this means that the Zappi would be working harder and generating more heat internally. Now the Zappi should be sending at this point, if you put it into fast mode, should be sending around 7 kilowatts to the car. We're only single phase here, and if it needs to, it can pull all the energy sort of surplus from the solar and also anything it needs in from the grid to top it up, or the home battery to top it up to that 7 kilowatts. But as you can see, it's actually only supplying 5.6 kilowatts, and the temperature is creeping up. It's now up to 68 degrees, and we've only been doing this test for 16 minutes. So at 35 minutes, now the Zappi is at 72 degrees internally, and I've switched it back to eco at this point, but only 1.5 kilowatts is going to the car, even though we're still generating 3.8 kilowatts. The house battery is absorbing the rest, and as you see, even if I switch it back to fast again, only around about 2.4 kilowatts is sent to the car, and it continues to throttle it. So taking external temperature readings at this point, we can see that the front of the Zappi, depending on where you point the infrared thermometer, ranges from about 50 degrees up to 62 degrees. So I've got a black fascia on mine, so that's about 62 degrees to the touch. The actual control panel itself is about 50 degrees, but if we take the thermometer up to the top of the Zappi sort of thing, it's up to 81 degrees at that point. And I contacted MyEnergy support about this, just to sort of like see if what I was seeing made sense. And over the course of a few days, I received some answers that I'd like to share with you. So I asked the question, does the Zappi reduce its power when it's hot? The reply I got was, I think this may unfortunately be the correct behaviour when in full sun. It will get hot and it will try to cool itself down by limiting the charge. Now I posted on sort of like numerous forums and on Facebook groups and bits and pieces to see if other Zappi owners were experiencing this, or whether it was me, whether I had a faulty unit, don't know. But basically the feedback I got from other users was that yeah, they were seeing this, but they saw it, you know, some people had like 2 Zappi units, they saw it in one but not in the other. And so I asked the question, I'm hearing from there are a number of Zappi owners are suffering from the same issue, but it seems to be the newer Zappi 2.1 that seems to be throttling more than the older models. My one was purchased last September. Is that the case? The answer I got back from MyEnergy tech support was the new Zappis do work at a slightly higher temperature, but they are also seeing it in version 2 as well. The third question, I had an external thermometer which I put next to the Zappi, and you'll see that in the video sort of thing. It's a cloudy day, there's been no direct sunlight on the Zappi. The ambient temperature is about 20 degrees, but the internal unit temperature of the Zappi is up at 40 or 41 degrees. So I asked the question, the thermometer sat next to the Zappi is reading 20 degrees, but the Zappi is reporting a unit temperature of 40 degrees. Could it be a temperature sensor fault, or even software, especially with the version 5 firmware issues we've been having, that the sensor data is being interpreted incorrectly? The answer I got from MyEnergy was no, it's just the internal temperature of the Zappi itself. At 20 degrees ambient, it will still be getting warm inside. At 25 degrees ambient, it will start to limit the power. It's quite a surprise. So that led me on to my next question, which was, isn't the operating temperature of the Zappi, according to the manual and the data sheets, minus 25 centigrade to 40 degrees centigrade? And if it starts to limit the power at 25 degrees ambient, at what temperature, either ambient or internal, will it stop charging altogether? And the answer I got back from MyEnergy was, it will carry on charging at 1.4 kilowatts. If it gets to 85 degrees internal, from what I remember, it will stop altogether. So they didn't really have any great deal of suggestions, solutions for this, apart from shading your Zappi. As you see, I've personally come up with my own sort of very cheap fix, homebrew, should I say, solution to shading my Zappi currently, which is a plastic fun tub with the bottom cut out of it, popped over the Zappi to provide it with some shading directly from the sun. and a bit of sort of silver-backed foil around that to reflect the sun at that point. My long-term solution is I've got in touch with my installer, and he's going to move it from the south-facing side of our garage to the east side of our garage, which is permanently shaded. So touch wood, we shouldn't see this issue anymore. But yeah, I thought it was worth sharing. Say this isn't my natural habitat. I hope I haven't waffled on too much. I'm not going to ask you to like, subscribe, thump bells, or follow me on Tactic or something, or some other media channel that I don't really understand. So hopefully this has been useful, and thanks for watching.